Hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Cioffi on this Tuesday, just a couple of minutes after the 6 o'clock Eastern time here, as we get ready for what I hope is the last major storm of the month. And for that matter, maybe let's make it the last major storm in quite a while, because I'm running out of gas here. So we have a lot happening tonight. Weather models continue to evolve and adjust, and they're coming very, very close together to what I think the final solution is going to be out of all of this. And you know, I got to tell you quite honestly, I did raise my snow amounts this morning to some degree, but I think I may wind up having to raise them again. The Weather Service has basically doubled the amounts that I have, and actually one of the unusual things about it is the fact that you know, years ago there was a time where you couldn't get the local Weather Service office here to be aggressive enough in situations that required it, and a lot of times lately it's been the other way around. It's been, you know, a few media people that have been front and center in going with higher amounts, and it seems to have kind of reversed for some reason, but you know, sometimes that is the case, and it doesn't make their forecast right, or it makes my forecast right, because you know what? Nothing's happened yet. This is all going to be for tomorrow. So we'll have to look back after this is over and see what went right and what went wrong with respect to these forecasts that are out there. But you know, it's really tough to come out and say 1.5 to 2 feet in an area that doesn't see 1.5 to 2 feet very often. But I want to emphasize that, at least from the standpoint of the amounts that I'm forecasting, that we are going to see that as a minimum, and I'm probably going to have to raise them up a bit more. So I'm going to start with the NAM this is as of the 6-hour forecast of the NAM model tonight. So this would be at 8 o'clock. Well, we do have sleet, snow, and some freezing rain going on right now from northeastern Maryland on up through southern New Jersey. Actually, the radar echoes extend all the way up to New York City, Long Island, and northern New Jersey, where there have been some reports of some light snow and sleet. But this first area is really not going to amount to too much in the New York City vicinity, because it's going to be drying out somewhat. But there is, in some parts of central and South Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania and southward, there are areas that have put down a considerable amount of sleet with some wet snow mixed in. So the atmosphere is pretty juiced. Now you'll see that first area just kind of weakens as we go through the overnight hours, and then as that first wave goes out, the second wave takes over, and then the upper air support swings in, and it's from this that you wind up getting the big snows. Now, snow arrives in the New York City area just about, this is at 9 a.m., so this is the new NAM model run, so figure sometime after 7 or 8 a.m., we're going to see snow breaking out and expanding on the radar across southern Connecticut, over northern New Jersey, and you can see it has trouble getting further north. Once you get north of Route 84 in New York State and in Connecticut, it really thins out. It also thins out in and around the Boston area, at least initially, until the low pivots around. And we've got, this is now for 1 a.m. Thursday. This is a long duration event here with this band of snow that extends from northeastern Virginia northeastward into southeastern New England. And then finally, as we move through the early morning hours on Thursday, by daybreak, it is done. So one of the things that's really impressed me with regards to this particular run of the NAM model is the precipitation that it is producing. This pinkish area, this is all 2 to 2.5 inches of liquid. All of Long Island, most of northern New Jersey, but not all, and in through southeastern Pennsylvania. Now, in the areas to the south, some of that is what's falling tonight, so we have to kind of subtract back a little bit, but from central New Jersey northward into New York City and Long Island and southernmost Connecticut, all of this is coming during the day tomorrow and into tomorrow night. So if we wind up with 2 inches plus liquid, even if you have a 5-to-1 snow ratio, you're talking at least 10 inches. And that is, you know, kind of where I am on the conservative end with regards to my forecast. If you go 10 to 1 with this, if we put up the NAM model, you can see on the snow amounts, it went kind of crazy with it. And you can see this large area of dark green, which is, you start talking about 15 to 20, which is where the Weather Service is at this with this. And I got to tell you, the atmosphere on the NAM, when I look at the NAM profiles of the atmosphere, it would justify, I think, an 8 to 1 ratio. Maybe 10 to 1 is pushing it for coastal areas, but it could certainly be every bit of 8 to 1. And one of the things that I've noticed here is, that freezing line. I'm going to back away just a little bit. The NAM is pretty cold during this. The freezing line runs right through New York City down into southern New Jersey. Long Island's a little bit above freezing, so there the ratios could be a bit lower. But notice the 30-degree line is just inland of the coast. And that freezing line is there all day. It really doesn't advance much further north. So we're going to see temperatures in this particular event in most of the area, particularly when it's snowing very hard. We're going to see temperatures down probably close to 30. And I think that means that if it's snowing hard and steadily, it's going to stick to most surfaces. Maybe the main roads may hold it off for a while, but certainly secondary and back roads will probably see accumulation on pavement even during the day. We had that with the storm, the prior storm. It snowed with intensity, and when it snowed with intensity, we did get snow cover during the daytime. The other thing is that there's a ton of precip that falls after the sun angle is no longer an issue, say after 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right until about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Many areas are picking up between 3/4 of an inch and an inch of liquid during that time frame, and that means that all that will probably stick to all surfaces. So if you lose some of it on the front side, on as far as paved surfaces are concerned, we're going to have problems with paved surfaces later in the day and into tomorrow night for sure. So when I look at these model runs today, if I looked at the latest RGEM model with its profile also pretty much the same. The RGEM and the NAM very much in line. Look at this dark blue, probably blinding heavy snow that in a band here tomorrow evening over southeastern New England, Long Island, back to about New York City, across central New Jersey, and then arcing back down into Cape May. The low center is pinned off the Delaware coast. You can see it here. And then that band kind of plays itself out. We're at 11 o'clock tomorrow night. And then finally, everything just is over with by about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. With you notice that the precip goes back to light rain, so when it loses intensity, with the minimal amount of, we have cold air, but it's not a whole lot of cold air. It's more cold air than we had in the last couple of events. But the outcome is going to be the same. And the GFS, by the way, also on the same page here with all of this. This is the late afternoon GFS run. I'll back it up. Same idea with what's overhead now. Kind of dries up. There's your coastal low that develops by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, snowing everywhere and snowing hard in South Jersey, snowing hard in most of New Jersey, southeastern New York, Long Island, and Connecticut tomorrow evening. And even at 1 a.m., it's still snowing back even into eastern Pennsylvania, although lightly there, into 1 o'clock in the morning before it finally pulls away. And the total accumulation of precip here on the GFS model actually has gone up from the prior run. Every bit of 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches in areas to the north and east. And of course, some of this includes what's falling tonight in South Jersey, but this is a pretty solid precip hit. If it comes down as all snow, we're going to put down the amounts that are being predicted. I'm going to bring up the full U.S. map because we do have another storm that we want to look at, and that is the storm out in the west. And you can see it here as it crashes inland tonight. This is for Wednesday night into Thursday. We actually do have some lead moisture coming in tonight, producing rain and snow into California on up the Pacific coast. And then the main shot that comes in during Thursday, you can see it here with heavy rains and snows up and down the entire state of California on up through Washington and Oregon. And then we've got more action coming in as we move through the weekend and into next week. But it looks like the prime shot is going to be what comes in for Thursday in the west. In Europe, very quickly, and we'll show you here what's going on across the pond as the beast from the east 2 winds down. We don't have all of the model run yet because of the fact that we're on daylight time, so it starts an hour later. But rain showers coming in as a wave and a front go by, and then another storm moves toward France here, a pretty deep low that moves into France and northern Spain with some rain and snow and some heavy snow there. But for England and Ireland, it looks like we're reverting back to some normal March weather and no sign of another beast from the east coming for later this week and for this weekend. So that's good news. You've had enough. You have had quite a winter there up in your world. I'm going to go back to the U.S. I want to just take a quick look. I haven't really looked at the long range. Nice to see a ridge here in the east for early next week, but let's back it up just to take you in the sequence here with regards to what's happening in the upper air. You know, we've been talking about the fact that we've got all these different pieces here. The block that's sitting east of Labrador, north of Newfoundland, energy that's coming down around that. You've got a trough coming into the northern plains. You have that the system in the southern stream moving across the Ohio Valley. The block needed to pull out enough to allow for some room, which indeed it did. The southern system, you see how it lifts up and then it starts to cut off and intensify. That northern stream system that moves into the western lakes just kind of picks it up very, very gently, just sort of lifts it up the east coast, and the upper low and the surface low become vertical basically. And then that pulls away. There's a little more energy that comes down at the end of the week, but eventually it looks like at least a ridge is going to want to pop up in the east early next week, and that would be nice because maybe that could take temperatures up into the 50s. Deep trough out in the west. I'll go back one model run cycle so we can go a little bit further with this and see where it takes us. I've really paid so little attention to the long range with all this short range nonsense going on. It does, well, this is interesting as we get out to day 11 and 12, some troughing there in the east. And look at that, the block actually comes back toward the end of the period. You've got a big blocking high in western Greenland and pointing up into north central Canada. So that's an interesting development there. This would be rather chilly for the first days of April, should this be correct. So let me get rid of the model here. I want to go look at some snow maps. And in fact, before we even do that, let's bring up what's going on with warnings and watches right now across the U.S. because we do have a lot of those. Winter storm warnings. You know, I'm trying to remember the last time that we had winter storm warnings up for the entire I-95 corridor from Washington to Boston, and it escapes my mind. It's been a long, long time that's happened. It certainly hasn't happened this winter up until now. But indeed, we've got winter storm warnings up for a good chunk of the northern half of Virginia, all of Maryland and Delaware into the Delmarva Peninsula, most of southern, southeastern, and eastern Pennsylvania, all of New Jersey, southeastern New York, including New York City, all of Long Island, all of Connecticut, and into Rhode Island and parts of southeastern Massachusetts, including the Boston area. And notice a lot of advisories back into Ohio, southwestern PA, western West Virginia, most of Kentucky, and even still a peppering of winter storm warnings in southeastern Indiana, northwestern Kentucky. Out in the west, starting to see the beginnings of winter storm watches and warnings up for the mountains of eastern California on northward, and a few high wind warnings and wind advisories popping up as they await the arrival of the next storm system. So let's, from here, why don't we, well, first of all, let me just take a look. I want to bring up my snow map, and this is going to take me just a half a second to save it, and this way I can put it up for you I'm kind of in a, this is kind of a crazy day here with all sorts of stuff going on. Excuse me for taking this just brief pause that I didn't do. Usually I try to get the maps uploaded a bit sooner, and I just didn't really have the time for it. Okay, almost there, folks. Just bear with me. All right, let's bring that. When your website is crazy busy, then you're trying to access some graphics here. It's having a problem. That's meteorologistjoecioffi.com, by the way. Shameless self-promotion. But hang in there. Come on. Hello. And now I can do it. Okay, so let's bring this here. System is running very, very slowly today. And come on. Come on. Snow 03. There we go. Finally. And here it is. So here's the snow map I did. And if you remember yesterday, I talked about this last night, that I was going to up this, and I did this morning. I think I pushed up the northern fringe of amounts up into northwestern New Jersey, 4 to 6 inches, and then I've got this band of 6 to 10 covering southeastern PA, also in through much of central and north central New Jersey, into southern areas of the Hudson Valley. Now, one of the things I did was I kind of made a hole over New York City and put them in lower amounts, because in the last 3 nor'easters here, it was New York City basically sat in a hole where nothing happened, and everybody around them got something, particularly in the last 2, not so much with the first one. So I put them in the lower area, and then once you get into Long Island, into Nassau County, away from the city line, and into western Suffolk County, I went back up to 6 to 10 and then kind of lowered it a little bit further to the east. But I got to tell you, looking at these models late this afternoon, I got to think that I'm going to get at least to the high end of these numbers. And by the way, if New York City, as measured at Central Park, gets a foot of snow out of this will be the latest that New York City has seen a foot of snow ever. And that's even going back to the 1880s. I believe that might be where the record is, in one of the years in the 1880s, which was one of the snowiest decades for New York City. The blizzard of '88 was in that, but it wasn't just that one year. All the years in that, in the 80s, I believe, were, if they were below normal, there were a couple of them, and they were only slightly below normal. All those winters were very cold, and the snowfall amounts were above average. So a very interesting storm that we're going to be dealing with tomorrow. I'm going to be very curious to see if those NAM amounts work out. There are going to be some pretty hefty snowfall accumulation amounts in some places, and that's the big question. Those NAM amounts are very, very high, and we're going to run into some pretty big snow amounts if that is the case. By the way, I just want to point out, and I don't know if this is a function of internet traffic of where I am, but there are issues, signal issues tonight, so we may lose the video in the next few minutes, and I'm going to actually have to keep it short because I have a weather hit to take care of. So I'm just running through everybody's comments. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Always good to see you, Joyce Mack. Yes, I never let them see me sweat. Absolutely. James Vitale, you don't ever have to ask, let me know that you have a question. Just ask the question, okay? It's perfectly fine. That's what the chat board is here for. We're not living on coffee yet, David Schwartz, although I did bring plenty of cigars with me. However, probably tomorrow and tomorrow night, because I'm actually staying overnight and staying again tomorrow night, because there's no way I'm going to get back home to Long Island. Jason Williams, you know what? As long as I'm not completely exhausted, I will try to do maybe tonight at 11 o'clock we'll do a live update after the NAM is done and review what's going on in terms of the current weather. Oh, and by the way, let me just show you. Let's bring up. Let me bring up the radar. We're talking about everything that's going on tonight. Why don't we take a look at some of the current weather conditions? I think that would make sense. Areas. I knew my local radar was hidden around someplace, and let's bring that up to the top. There we go. Let me just. So here we go. And, this is that first wave. Remember, we were talking about two waves here. This is the first wave that is moving northward. And the air is so dry and so cold. For this time of year, it certainly is cold. We should be up around 50. We didn't even make it out of the 30s in the entire area today. And in some places, not out of the mid-30s. But the dew points were down in the single digits and low teens. I mean, that's incredibly dry air. So this moisture is pulling up northward. And where you see the brighter yellows here, this is heavy sleet that's going on over parts of central and southern New Jersey and into southeastern PA. But on the northern fringe of this, the precip is drying up before it reaches the ground. So the models are forecasting this to shrink back southward overnight, and they seem to be on course to do that. It's what fires up late during the early morning hours tomorrow, after say about 4 or 5 a.m., and then starts pivoting northward. That is the main show, as we would call it. And that will be our storm and the moisture field, with that gearing up and rotating back to the northwest. The H drops showing an extreme band in northeast New Jersey. Not a surprise. That matches up. That's high resolution. The RGEM, that matches up pretty well with the RGEM. I'm really, seeing these mid-cycle runs. To tell you the truth, I kind of expected just sort of what happened yesterday, which was, having them pull back and putting my stomach in even more knots. But the runs of the mid-cycle models today were every bit as robust as the prior couple of runs, and in fact, at least certainly in the case of the NAM and the RGEM, did wind up being even more robust. So will amounts have to go up? Could very well be. And yes, Joshua Pan, unlike the nor'easter in March 17, the forecast amounts have worked upward in DC instead of downwards. Always a good sign as you approach an event, and now you guys are in it for the most part. And you're going to catch some snow from this deepening low that's off the Delaware coast. So DC, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, up onto Hartford, Providence, and Boston. I think you're in line for at least the amounts that I showed you on the map that I had up. And, I may wind up very well being too low. If that is the case, I'm going to look back and see what happened. I think, honestly, if that is the case, it's basically been my fear of the time of year and the temperatures, but the atmosphere is doing a great job in keeping itself colder than what is modeled, and models have been catching up to the idea that we do have a very, very cold atmosphere. I stink at Abby's. Any possible chance for thunder snow here in South Jersey? You know what? I didn't get a chance to look at the strength of the Omega field, but you know what? Why not? Anthony Orr, 1887, 4 nor'easters in a row. I assume that you're telling me, Anthony, that's the last time that we had 4 nor'easters in a row, and that was during the 1880s. That is incredible. Joyce Mack, thank you so much hitting Super Chat tonight. Really appreciate that very much. A hot cup of coffee will definitely come in handy, and you folks have been most kind. Let me just bring up real quick. If you shop on Amazon.com, and please, you don't feel any obligation to do this. I'm just putting it out there. It's an easy way. If you are shopping on Amazon.com, and if you do it through my Amazon link, you get your stuff. I get Amazon winds up buying me a cigar, and it doesn't cost you a thing. So it's if you don't do Super Chat, or if you don't do PayPal, and that's totally cool with it, obviously. But if you happen to do Amazon, here's the link. If it doesn't work, you can, it may not come up that correctly. If you're not be able to link to it, you can cut and paste to it, or you can just go to my website or my Facebook page and you can use the link from there. All right, folks, so look, I got to call it a day because I have to hit a live weathercast coming up in just a little bit. Thank you so much for being here. I will try and do a live stream tonight at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and I can't say for sure, no guarantees here, but I will definitely give it a try. And of course we will be, tomorrow morning I'll have some time because I don't plan to run into work right away, so we'll do a live stream tomorrow morning and get you updated on all the latest going on, and fine-tune the forecast, which for what could be a very, very interesting day across much of the northern mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Have a great rest of your Tuesday night. We'll see you maybe later.